Luis Suarez scores the fastest goal in club history against FC Cincinnati in match week 26 in the MLS regular season last night. Also scoring a brace against them, making us the first MLS team to clinch the playoffs this season. This is a win against one of the better MLS sides in the Eastern Conference, if not in the entire league. So this is a very crucial win for Inter Miami. Let's go over the game. We'll talk about the starting lineup, some player performances, and we'll talk about the final stretch of this season. We have a couple of games remaining. We have playoffs very, very soon, and what to kind of expect for that. So let's get into it. I've been doing these reviews live for the last couple of months, but I wanted to go back to edited shorter versions so you guys can watch it all the way through and not have to sit there for an hour. So hopefully this is something that you guys enjoy. So this is going to be the starting lineup here on your screen with Jordi Callender in goal. We have the three center backs of Martinez, Busquets, and Aviles, the four midfielders Jordi Alba, Redondo, Bright, Chelo Weigandt, and the three attackers Diego Gomez, Luis Suarez, and Matias Rojas. A very, very solid lineup. It was kind of expected this lineup, to be used by Tata Martino. If you guys didn't know, we got absolutely rocked by Cincy last time out. We lost 6-1 away from home, and it was something to completely forget about. So we really had to pull off something a little differently this time around so we didn't get scored on 6 times. And that's essentially to put out our best 3 defenders that we have available, which is Martinez, Busquets, and Aviles. Even though Aviles, I don't highly rate him, which I'll get to in a second, he still is one of our best defenders that we have on this team. But yeah, Aviles is essentially, I don't highly rate him. He's been in a really poor run of form, and he has never really had a really solid game. His decision making, his recklessness, it all factors in to how negatively it impacts our team. In this game against Cincy, he's got a red card, he had a double yellow, made 2 pretty bad tackles, and it was just absolutely not necessary for him to do so. He wasn't stopping any promising attack. It was just a completely reckless foul in the middle of the pitch. And it's decisions like that where it's so questionable. And I understand that he's young, he's 19, but he can't be making that type of tackle. He can't be making those types of decisions for being the most expensive center back in the history of the MLS. You're going to be held up to a standard. At least I do. I hold them up to a very, very high standard for costing us that much money, for being young, for being a huge prospect. You're gonna have to show some signs that you're gonna be one for the future, even though obviously he still has a lot of time, and I'm not saying that he isn't one for the future. He just needs to be making better decisions, and so hopefully intellectually he'll become a better player over time. Honestly, I just really hope he starts actually giving out good performances. But no, he got that red card about the 42nd minute of the first half, so essentially we played the entirety of the second half with a man down. Commenting on Busquets is so intelligent. It's insane how smart of a player he is, and obviously we all know who Sergio Busquets is. He played for Barcelona for a really long time. He's a Spanish legend. He's one of the best in the game. He goes really, really unnoticed. I feel like he goes really underappreciated. People don't really talk about him at all. Without Busquets, this team absolutely dwindles. It absolutely falls apart. And last night, it showed it even more. He shows it time in and time out in every single game that he plays. But specifically with last night, if Sergio Busquets wasn't there playing as a center back, I just think we would concede, even though Cincinnati were not threatening at all offensively. And for Martinez and Callender, they have done really, really well to save our ass. I mean, Callender has made a couple of saves, Martinez has made a couple of nice tackles, and essentially our defense was really, really solid, which is something that we're not used to seeing at all. We struggle defensively, especially in defensive transitions. We are the worst in the league at it. But tonight, we kept a clean sheet first, which is unheard of. And we had a solid defensive performance, which is not something we can say. So I'm very proud to say that. I want to talk about the 2 wingbacks of Jordi Alba and Chelo Weigandt, specifically Chelo. Chelo has not had a good performance in months, probably since he started his season with us. And it's been very, very worrying. I mean, we traded our right back, DeAndre Yedlin, to Cincinnati, actually, who captained the game for Cincy last night. And once we traded Yedlin, we had no replacement for him. We were literally playing David Ruiz at right back. And then we brought in Chelo. He did well the first couple of games. And then after that, he's just been very, very questionable. His decision making on the ball, off the ball. He's just been losing possession, turning things over, missing tackles, out of position. Everything was just wrong. Everything was absolutely wrong. But last night, I think it's safe to say that that was his best performance that we've seen in an Inter Miami shirt. And of course, he got an assist. He actually assisted to Suarez's first goal. So you have to give him a lot of credit there. But he was getting really high up the pitch. And yeah, no, that was definitely one of his better performances. Props to him, honestly. Obviously, we do have Ian Frey available on the bench, who I still think is a way better player than Chelo. I think a lot of people can agree with me on that. I don't want to bash Chelo, but yeah, I've never had him. I mean, we've been yelling at Tata to bench Chelo for the longest time, but he's been still giving him a chance, giving him a chance. Chelo played the entirety of the 90 minutes. In all honesty, as good of a game as he may have had, he still should have been subbed off way earlier, maybe in the 70th, even like in the 80th minute would have been somewhat reasonable. Him playing the entirety of the 90 minutes and really not getting subbed off until a couple of minutes later. Like he literally got subbed off, I think it was the 91st minute for Kritsov. And yeah, so I would have loved to see Ian Frey. We did actually see him off the bench. He played as a center back, which he did really well at. And he came on around like the halftime mark, essentially as Aviles' replacement. For Jordi Alba, he got a yellow card, unfortunately, so that's going to rack up at some point. I think he's gotten quite a few. But yeah, Jordi Alba is a huge threat, both offensively and defensively. He's had a really terrific game, a lot of passing, getting into the spaces that he needs to. Like, he really likes getting into that final third. He creates a lot of passes, gets into space, and just really becomes an attacking option for us, which is essentially just an amazing thing to have a player like Jordi Alba who can do both jobs just as well. It's really cool to have him. So props to Jordi Alba for last night. In the midfield, I think is where we struggled just a little bit. Yannick Bright, I thought he had a really good game. In the first half, I feel like we struggled with Redondo and Bright being the two center mids. I thought Redondo could have had a little bit of a better game, but it definitely was on the better side. I thought that Yannick Bright had to kind of make up for his mistakes, or he just had to make up for a lot of space. Bright was like kind of in charge of a lot of space, and so that kind of let him, struggle a little bit because he's normally used to being in a midfield 3 instead of a midfield 2. But when Gomez or when Rojas would drop back into the midfield, I think it would kind of be better. Once we switched the formation, I think in the second half, Bright did do a lot better. For the front three of Diego Gomez, Luis Suarez, and Rojas, I thought they did phenomenal. Obviously, Suarez making history for the club, scoring the fastest goal of 30 seconds or 31 seconds into the match. I mean, I was still getting settled into my couch when he scored that goal, but it was awesome for that to see. He's also officially broke the record, scoring the most goals in a season in all competitions. He surpassed Higuain's record. Back in 2022, Higuain scored 16 goals in all competitions in one season. Luis Suarez scored 18 after tonight, but that's including 2 goals from the CONCACAF Champions Cup and 2 goals from the Leagues Cup. But just in the MLS regular season, Luis Suarez has scored 14 goals and Higuain scored 16. So he's almost there in scoring the most amount of goals in the league in one season. But yeah, I have to give my respect to Suarez for his history. We know that he's been a phenomenal striker throughout his career, but I gave him a lot of hate in the beginning of the season. So believing just that he would come to Miami just to play with Messi and just to get a bag. But no, he's been our best attacking player this season. And I have to give him a lot of props because he's really the difference maker and he shows up when we need him to. So props to Luis Suarez. And hopefully he can surpass Higuain's goal scoring record with the few games that we have left in the season. For Diego Gomez and Matias Rojas, I mean, we'll start off with Gomez. Gomez is also one of our best attacking players that we have at the team. He's been filling that in over Robert Taylor. Robert Taylor has been in a slump of form in that left wing position. So, I mean, I think it's a better decision that we have Diego Gomez up there. I've always been saying that he would be the better option during this period of time where Taylor is in the slump. And also Diego Gomez confirmed his move to Brighton. I made a video about that if you want to check that out. But no, he always does well offensively, whether that's in that left wing spot, in the CM spot. He played very centrally in this last game, which honestly I didn't mind. Luis Suarez was on that wing. He was definitely able to create a lot of pressure in those central areas, pressing against those center backs. So yeah, I highly rate Diego Gomez. And for Matias Rojas, I mean, he had a pretty quiet game. There's nothing really to talk about there. He did get an assist, so really good for him. But yeah, Cincinnati, really quickly, they were just not on their game. Like, if I was Cincinnati, I'd be very disappointed with that performance. It simply just wasn't enough for them. And like, yes, they didn't have players like Acosta, who wasn't brought in until the second half. Gubo was playing on the left. I mean, Orellano, they were also pretty quiet. Their attacking players of Kelsley, Valenzuela, and then Giochini, they were quiet. They didn't really do anything, and they all ended up getting subbed off at halftime. So it was a very offensively, it wasn't the same Cincinnati that we played when we lost 6-1. And even with the subs that they made at the halftime, Cincinnati, I mean, they didn't do anything. Those subs, like Lucho Acosta was quiet. We were able to lock him down. He ended up getting a yellow card, so I'm pretty sure he will be suspended for the next game due to the accumulation of yellow cards. But I'm very proud of the boys, which is something that I feel like is not said a lot. A team without Messi is performing very well. I mean, I understand that they have Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, and Sergio Busquets, But players like Ian Frey, Yannick Bright, Diego Gomez, they're stepping up. They're stepping up and they're performing well. And they did really well against one of our competitive rivals tonight and one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and if not in the entire league. So props to Inter Miami. And speaking of the Messi situation, or just speaking of Messi, I want to talk a little bit about his situation. Obviously, you guys know that he got injured in the Copa America final back, what was it, July 15th, and he's just had that meatball of an ankle, so he's been out for quite a while. He hasn't touched the field in what, a little over a month, but I talked a little bit about it in my preview that I went live in a show that I do called the Heron's Haven podcast, which essentially this episode correlates with the Heron's Haven podcast. You can add that to the playlist. But yeah, he hasn't played in a really long time. He hasn't even been training on the field up until a couple of days ago, which Tata Martino has confirmed to us. So he's no longer in the boot. He's back doing individual training work on the field. We should be expecting him pretty soon. We do have a game on the 31st against Chicago away from home at Soldier Field, which he shouldn't be playing that game at all. My prediction would be like at the earliest would be next month in September. I think it's against Philly at home. And yeah, that would be like the earliest best case scenario if he is fully fit. If not, he'll probably be available for the end of September. But we'll just have to see for that. If it was me, I would want him back like the latest by the end of September so we can get him kind of just accustomed to playing games again, because almost 2 months without playing a proper game does take a toll on somebody, and you're not going to be 100%. So you would kind of want to ease him into it, give him a couple of minutes off the bench and things like that, even though he is the best player in the world. And so you just don't simply want to give Messi a full 90 minutes or even a start as soon as he comes back. And even if he is ready to play and fully fit, you do want to take some sort of precaution, similar to what they're doing with Ian Frey. They've been taking a lot of precaution with him. But yeah, guys, we have 7 games left of the 2024 MLS regular season before we hit into playoffs. We are officially clinched in a playoff position, the first team in the MLS to do so as of today. And that doesn't mean essentially our run is over and we can just lollygag for the rest of these 7 games. We still have to do very, very well. We still have to perform well. We're still fighting for Supporter Shield. We're still fighting for a high seed so we can get the home game advantage for these playoff games. And we do have some revenge games that maybe we can look into. I mean, like we have Philly, which should be a good game. We have a game against NYCFC, who've been doing all right this season. Charlotte, we have Columbus later on in the year. So yeah, it's kind of crazy that the season is almost over, but we want to make sure that we do end it really, really strong without taking too many risks, but we still want to place as highly in the table as possible. Shout out to the GOAT, Tom Brady, for being there, chatting it up with Beckham pretty much the whole game. And yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching this review. Leave me your thoughts in the comments down below. But yeah, a lot of people are going to say this is rigged. I've been already seeing a lot of comments on Twitter saying how this is race for Miami, that Miami are going to win every game that they play. And it's just simply not true. Everybody's going to be a hater. Everybody's going to complain about something. But we all know that what we have done so far has been absolutely fair and square. And Messi hasn't even played for the majority of the games. Messi has literally missed 60% of Inter Miami's games this season. So we've been doing very, very well without him. For people that say like, oh, we're nothing without Messi. We can't score without Messi. We can't win games without Messi. And we are proving them wrong. So hopefully we can continue to do so until the end of the season. And hopefully we can challenge for the Eastern Conference and win MLS Cup. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Heron's Haven podcast here on the SoFlo Soccer channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm your host, Matt, and I'll see you guys on the next video.